So it's just one of those things that, as a tour guide, at any haunted location, people should be thinking of. If someone brings in a child under a certain age, especially under the age of 12,
Mm-hmm.
between the ages of 12 and 16, if they're females, you might have some issues as well. You may have to be paying attention to what's going on. And with children, they tend to ask the spirits to come home with them.
Well, they do, because the spirits, in order to get the children to interact with them, present much differently than they do to adults. And that is why I think that the majority of places I have been have an age limit on who is allowed to even tour, much less tour and investigate the property, bring in equipment and things like that.
They had an age limit on who could come in and investigate. You had to be at least 12 years old to come in and investigate with the parent. And if it got out of hand, the parent was told they would have to leave. They would have to leave with the child.
Right.
But anybody under 18 had to have parental consent. But on the tours, there was no limit on the tours. And now it's, there's even less access to stuff and less people to really care. No paranormal investigators actually doing the tours there now. So now it's just students or volunteers or somebody else. So if anybody plans on going to the Sally House next year during haunted season, just be aware there's not going to be anybody there to answer your questions about the history or anything factual. It's all going to be bull stuff. And
nice
just
save.
Be aware of that. Well, I was trying to think of something other than bull, but that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be the truth. It's all going to be urban legend. That was not anything that you can, only a few things of it that you can prove are factual. And nobody wants to pay to go to a place and have smoke blown up their skirt.
True that.
And
well, especially the paying side of it, because that just is so tough.
It is. And the thing is it was going on since, the Pickmans were on TV in 1994 on multiple shows. They started doing the trolley tour around Atchison in 1995, and they couldn't keep people in the house after 2004. So they started doing paranormal investigations in the house after 2004 and opening the house up for people to get in at that time. So they never really had paranormal investigators during the day tours in September and October until me and Ron. So for 6 years, they actually had somebody who knew something in there doing this. Before it was just somebody from a local business or teenager that from the local school that had to do volunteer time. Somebody that they could sit there for 4 hours. So that was one of the things that people found was more interesting, is that they actually had somebody that could sit there and talk to them about the paranormal and other things that were going on in the house and even answer their questions. And eventually they let me start getting the people in there to help us, so we didn't have the high school kids and people who were not interested. So
I never understand high school kids anyway. And I apologize. That was a new mic testing it out. But, I just don't understand where people are seeing things happen and they still don't take care of their guests. I mean, because these are paying guests.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody knows what they're asking for.
Right.
There's some issues there.
Well, in their case, they're looking at it, hey, they're only spending $10 and it's a 2-hour tour and you go in for, now they're being very strict about that as well. But $10, you get what you're asking, you get to go into this place that's, a paranormal landmark for $10, and if you haven't done your homework, all you get is this little story and you have to figure out the rest for yourself. So luckily for me, and Ron and everybody else, I had read everything that there was to know about it. I'd read the Pickman's books. I had read Joe Citrone's book on the house. I had done a deep dive into the research. I'm talking thousands of pages of data from local newspapers and all this other stuff. So I've probably forgotten more about the Sally House than anybody would even want to know.
I would believe that, but we're up on our first break, and so we'll be back in 3. Y'all just enjoy this.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And just like that, we're back. You are listening to Fate Magazine Radio. I am Kat Hobson, your host, joined tonight by my friend and co-worker and colleague, Denise Pridemore. Denise is the host of Paranormal Pride here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and I'm glad you're my guest tonight, Denise. And we were talking about the Sally House and the things that have changed there, getting ready to go into the upcoming season. It sounds like there's just going to be a vast difference in the experience.
There is. Apparently, over the weekend, we met some people who had done the tours since we're no longer there. They closed off some of the areas. You used to be able to go down in the basement. You were able to... Before us, you couldn't go in the basement, okay? So before us, you couldn't go in the basement. You couldn't go in the nursery. So now they've closed off the basement as well, like I said, they don't have anybody in there to give you any, if you have any questions, you're pretty much going to have to go and look up your own answers, which means you may not even get the real answer. So that's one of the things I'm concerned about. They're only letting people use cameras in there, where before we actually brought equipment in there and showed them how to use it. We would have echo boxes and Mel meters and K2s, dowsing rods, pendulums, different things all the time. You know, we would always be in there with whatever equipment we had. I had a big box that I would bring every week. Not only did I bring these boxes of equipment, You know what else I brought? I brought books from local authors about the places in and around Kansas City on both sides, Missouri and Kansas, of haunted locations in case people had questions about other places they could go. I also had some about some local areas, as in, like, I had brochures from places like the Villisca Axe Murder House and the Malvern Manor and all these other places in case they wanted to do something other than Atchison. So they would be able to know, hey, these people aren't just trying to sell me on everything Atchison. They've done all these other places. If I have questions, I can actually talk to them and ask them questions. And the people that we brought in to help us out, like Rick Rose, Steve Hayes, Gary Whitmer, and Carl Albertson, we would bring in other paranormal investigators to help us out on our busy times so that they would have more people than just me and Ron there. So we made sure that when they came in, if they didn't have a paranormal experience, they could at least talk to somebody who was involved in the paranormal about paranormal experiences they had, or they could look at information to get more information about other places that they wanted to go. So I was promoting my friends in the paranormal, plus my friends that had paranormal locations and other places around. You can't ask for more than that when you go to a place that's haunted and you want to find out more. Here I was offering all that information. It wasn't easy setting up every week, bringing all this stuff. And we were driving 90 miles one way every week to volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay, and the key word there was volunteer. We were not getting paid a dime for 8 weeks a year, every single Saturday. Well, sometimes Fridays and Saturdays. We were in Atchison, spending the night at a hotel, spending our own money on things so we could go up there to volunteer. So, oh, thanks, Ron. Ron posted in the chat room. I even gave autographs for $10.
Well, that's a cheap autograph, I've got to say. You know?
Well, and then after it was on Ghost Adventures,
the cat typed it.
And after it was on Ghost Adventures, it did help some. But the bad part is that they sat there and said, "It's a demon. It's a demon," and that kind of hurt things as well, though, because I had to explain other things. Do I believe that? Yes, I believe it's a demon, but I didn't want to tell people that, because if you gave it power and you acknowledged it as a demon, it had more power over you. So, and there's a lot of things about the Sally House people didn't know, like hanging out there for long periods of time can drive a wedge in your relationships. I have watched it break up multiple relationships. And
relationships that were good to start with.
Yeah, and you heard Rick on Monday talk about
did.
his relationship with Cher. It broke
Let
up
me ask you, because you and Ryan have investigated together forever. You've been together forever. Did it affect you?
Oh, yeah.
Ours was bad to start with, it actually.
So it fixed you. And y'all, just for the record's sake, we get a double duty here. This is special. This is Ryan Pridemore, who is the other part of Paranormal Pride.
Yeah,
and
he's in the
Pridemore Paranormal. He's in chat. So, and it is really fun to have both of them. And
for us, the Sally House did cause a lot of problems, and the problems is for 8 weeks a year, 8 to 10 weeks a year, we were going up there all the time, and there'd be a couple weeks that Ron couldn't go, so I would have to go up alone. Usually they weren't very busy weeks. It would be like Halloween day, I would have to go up because it would be a work day. He wouldn't go. If it was Breeders' Cup Saturday, Friday or Saturday, he couldn't go because he was busy. Things like that. One time we were up there, he got physically ill, and just an hour before we had to go, but we were already there. But I left him at somebody's house, but other than that, we did have issues where we got into arguments about me spending too much time